Hi guys, Greg at Best Choice Trailers. Today we're going to take a walk around an Ironbull DXB 7x14 foot, 14,000 pound GVW high side dump trailer. This particular unit's one of Ironbull's newer models. We like what it has to offer. We'll show you some of the standard features on this particular unit. It's going to weigh in at about 4,500 pounds. It's going to mean it's got 9,500 pound legal payload left on the trailer side axles. 14,000 minus the 45. Then you're also going to pick up about 15% tongue weight, about 2,000 pounds to the truck side. So total legal carrying capacity truck and trailer, you're going to get upward about 11.5, absolutely max legal. I'd say probably safer number to target for is about 11,000, depending on that actual pin weight. So Ironbull does some trailers black, some charcoal. This particular unit is black, powder coated in color. Pretty much most everything you see here is going to be standard equipment. It's actually one of the first ones that's going to have telescopic hoist standard equipment. It is one of the more common things folks are asking for now. So let's take a look around, show you everything it has to offer. It's got a 6-hole adjustable coupler, which means you've got 4 different height options ranging from about 16 to 22 inch height. Normally we can accommodate about any truck with that adjustment range. It's got a 2 5/16 inch ball. It's got a cast coupler, a little bit heavier duty than your stamped style couplers. If you're not familiar with the cast, forward is open, rearward is closed. 2 set bolts. You've got the heavy duty front coupler setup. It's nice because it's got your integrated chain holders. Nice feature. 8-inch I-beam, what we call the monoframe or unibody frame. Basically, it is continuous. 8-inch I-beam, front to rear on this particular unit. Nice part about the monoframe, you get a nice deep tongue instead of about a 4-inch or 4-foot tongue found on most dumps. This one's about 5.5 foot, give or take. Now, what that allows for is room for your hoist behind the toolbox, which takes up about a foot or so. Also gives you a monster toolbox. I'll show you that in a second. Room enough for your 12K jack up front, which is where I prefer it. Just makes it a lot easier to access your pull pin at the bottom. And then, of course, your coupler up front. So, again, your hoist is going to take up about a foot, and that's in the center. And then they conveniently have a spot on either side. I don't know that I've seen a name for it. I would call it a bit of a chain tray. I think it'd be a great spot to put your chains, binders, straps, any of that type stuff, depending on what industry you're in. But again, this is your telescopic hoist. If you're not familiar with the telescopic hoist, one of the advantages, and I'll show it going up in a bit, is it's a 3-stage hoist. So there's actually 4 main things that I would say are going to be a benefit. One is it's vertical, trying to go vertical, which saves having to redirect the force of a scissor or a dual piston, because they're both going to be horizontal trying to go vertical. So step 1 is it's vertical. Step 2 would be certainly leverage. Dual piston mounts midpoint of the fender, scissor at the front side of the fender. Telescopic's got all the leverage in the world. It's also a 3-stage hoist, and again, we'll get to that as I put it up, but a scissor and a dual piston are a single stage, meaning they never have a chance to reset at a better operating pressure, or I'll say get in the correct gear. Telescopic hoist being a 3-speed or a 3-stage, you're in a better gear. And then finally, your 4th benefit, a telly is going to be a gravity down, which is going to save a little bit of battery power on the downward cycle. Now, it's pretty cold Pennsylvania winter right now. Power is going to get you just a little bit of time savings on the way down. In the summertime, generally a gravity is probably going to be a little quicker than would the power. So let's get to it. Show you some of the additional features here. When I said it's a big toolbox, it is big. So when you have a gravity down, it's not like power up, power down. You're going to power up, lose all the fluid in the reservoir. When it comes back down, it's all going back in the reservoir. So you've got a big container. Typically, gravities are going to be a 6-quart. Let's see if it says here. It doesn't show us, but probably going to be a 6-quart reservoir compared to your typical reservoir. It's about a third that size. Nice part about this is you can theoretically almost never lose fluid. It's a sealed system. You're pushing all the fluid out, bringing it all back. Unlike a power up, power down, if the battery is dead, you will lose fluid out your overflow reservoir cap. This one, you can't lose fluid. It's there unless something crazy happens. Nice part about up front, you've got extra room besides just the battery. So you got room, again, if you want to keep maybe an extra quart of fluid, which again, in this, I don't know why you would need it, but maybe there's other fluid. Maybe you're using a chainsaw and you want to keep your bar oil or whatnot. Good spot to do it. You've got your Group 24 deep cycle marine battery. You've got a KTI pump. Again, it's power up, gravity down. You've got an up down button on the pump cord. It's also going to be magnetized, which is nice. You've got your 110 volt charger built into the toolbox. It's going to be a 5 amp hour battery charger. So if you've got a fully discharged battery, typically going to be a 140 amp hour on a Group 24, you're going to need to charge for about 140 divided by a 5 amp hour. We'll say a day, about 28 hours. A lot of folks do short cycle the battery charge. That said, with as efficient as a telescopic hoist is, generally, if you have a working accessory line charge on your truck, you should need limited supplemental charging. Now, I can tell you without digging too deep into this, this has a supplemental line charge to your truck. You've got your main lines on either side going to your pump. One of these two smaller lines on each terminal is going to be going to your charger. The last line is going to run, and you can see what size it is. I want to point that out. That's probably a 14 gauge wire. Some folks say, oh, I got this big cord here that I must have infinite charging off the truck. And the answer is, unfortunately, no. There's actually 6 cables in that, all about yay big. You're going to get about a 3.7 amp hour of line charge off your truck, which helps out, but it doesn't amount to a whole lot. So again, as efficient as this hoist is, that little bit of line charge is going to help out to where somebody might never actually have to use the charger. But if you are, I'll say, a commercial heavier duty user, definitely want to periodically use the 110 volt charger. And after a bit of use, you'll figure out exactly how often that is. I've had many commercial users with lesser efficient hoist, say a scissor hoist, tell me that so long as they charge the battery for the spring to get started, that little bit of line charge does what they need to do. Again, it's going to depend how heavy a user, what you're putting into bed, as to how many dump cycles you're going to get relative to how much driving you're doing. So anyway, let's keep on moving on. If you want to, you can do a wireless remote. This actually is a removable. It'll pull apart right there. We can put a wireless on there if that's what you desire. Again, you've got the space behind the toolbox as well. Where the frame comes together in this monoframe, you'll notice it's gusseted actually top on the face with your LED light, and then on the bottom as well, you've got an integrated side step for stepping up to your tarp. Tarp kit on this is standard equipment. You've got a grab handle up here. Now, one thing on a tarp, or I should say a few things, there's a greaser there for some extra serviceability, which is nice. You've got spring-loaded handle. The handle actually will fold in to get out of the way if you need. But then one of the things I like, not every manufacturer gives you a sail bar. So this bar goes through the tarp, and basically you can walk that all the way to the back. And there's a J back here to receive it. It's nice because you don't got to worry about your tarp as you're pulling it, getting snagged and whatnot. Just one hand, take it front to back. If you want to, you can throw what looks like a dog leash or whatnot. There's a cable, just a nylon cable you can throw to the center, throw it to the back, and if you want to pull it back that way on a high side, easy to do so with that. Ramps are undermount. This particular unit uses the rings for a holdback. Very simple design. They'll hook in there to receive the doors coming around. Tarp kit does have grommets going down the sides, so you'll see there's J's down here. You can hook bungees to receive them. Going down the sides, you've also got pole pockets. So if you want to build that side up a little bit additional, you can do so. This is a 4-foot side. Most folks don't need to go a whole lot more than 4, but if you need to get another foot or so, there are pockets to do so. This particular unit's got your double broke fenders. It's got your gussets front and rear, slipper spring suspension standard equipment. And this particular unit's got a black mod wheel, 8 on 6.5 lug pattern, 235/80 R16. It's a load range E 10-ply radial tire. It's got the newer style forward self-adjusting brakes. Then it's also got the Easy Lube hub. So behind this cap here, it's a little cold today, but on a warmer day you can get to it. You can peel it with your finger, but a flat-bladed screwdriver will work. Behind there, there's a greaser, and basically a homeowner with basic hand tools. I simply wipe away the excess grease, put your grease gun on there. When you see new grease come out, time to stop. The Easy Lube hub's fairly simple. It's going to go through the outer bearing center, inner bearing center, inner bearing outer, and then outer bearing outer. When you see that fresh grease come out the outside, it's time to stop. This particular unit's got a nitrogen-filled tire. You can tell from the green cap. Nitrogen itself is stable, but the one thing it does do, it keeps moisture out. They say, theoretically, should have a little bit less chance of any sort of dry rot down the road. This particular unit's going to be equipped with a 48-inch sidewall. It's got a 10-gauge side, and then also you're going to have a 10-gauge floor. One of the things I like about this particular unit, on especially a high side, it's got this keyway in the side. So you can beat on it all you want. It's going to give a lot less deflection than a long straight side. So this one actually, you got a little bit of best of both worlds. You got this keyway in it, but then you've also got these vertical stiffeners as well. So you got a lot of support on this particular unit. So again, you've got the high sides. Because of that, instead of having 2 hinges per side, you get 3. Open up the door for you. So you got 4-inch rings in the corners. And you'll notice that keyway is keyed into that sidewall. It's not welded onto the outside. That's important because some of them do that. I like the keyed in better. It's a little bit more involved of a process, but it's a better process. It gives more strength whenever it's formed in. Also doesn't allow it to rust down at the bottom edge of where that keyway is. So it's a 7x14 by 4-foot sides. I believe a 2-foot sided 14-foot dump is 6.9 yards. This one should come in somewhere right around 14 yards. Because of how big the toolbox is, you got dual shocks on it. So we're in stage 1 of the telly now. You'll hear it kick in a second to the second stage. Of course, the first stage is going to be the strongest, but also the slowest. And once it kicks to second, it's going to speed up a little bit. So that's why I said about it always being in the right gear. Telescopic's very efficient. Once the load's started, it doesn't take near the power that it does to get the load initially moving. Generally, telescopics, everyone's going to be a little bit different depending on the size, but normally they run about an 18 to 2200 PSI operating range, where your dual pistons typically start on a full load around 3000 to 3200 PSI. Generally, your scissors are going to be a little bit less than that. The benefit of running a lesser operating pressure, well, one is everything running at a lower pressure theoretically is going to last a little bit longer. But then generally you're going to get a little bit more cycles out of it whenever you're running lesser pressure and getting the job done. So underneath here, we've got your reinforcement behind your telescopic hoist. Telly's are going to look a little bit different underneath. You don't have quite the same headering up that you would see on, say, a scissor hoist. Same thing for your cross members underneath. There's just a lot less force involved because of how efficient it is. Engineers say the Tellys are pretty much 100% efficient. Your scissors are about 60, and your dual pistons are about 40. So there's a lot less, I'll say, to go wrong on a telescopic because of how it's set up. You've got your hinges to the rear, and then you've got your pivot point all the way front with all the leverage. Undermount ramps, standard equipment. You've got your wiring ran down a chase for protection. And you've got your main frame hinge. Better shot of your suspension, slipper springs. So this is offered in different models. You can get regular sides or high sides. This one does happen to have the high sides, but you can get these in a 2-foot side as well. 12, 14, 16-foot lens. If you have any questions on this particular unit or any of our trailers, feel free to give us a ring at 717-220-4220, or you can visit us on the web at bestchoicetrailers.com.